Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Confessions of a Gaming Mum. You might notice that my angles for my camera and where I'm sat and stuff might be changing a bit. I'm currently trying to work out, because I've just updated my setup for my gaming, so it's trying to find where I can fit the camera that actually gives the most flattering angles for me, and they're very few and far between. So yeah, I'm still just learning and trying to figure out where best for the camera to go, so bear with. I hope this one will do for now. I think for vlogs it's just that the camera's just that little bit further back because there's no screen right in front of me anymore. But yeah, anyway, let's get on with today's subject. And as you've probably seen from the title, hence you clicking on it, today I wanted to talk about homeschooling within the UK. Now, a lot of people probably click on this thinking that I'm talking about it because of what's currently going on with the lockdown, and obviously kids being home from school and therefore parents having to teach their kids at home and stuff. But actually this is a subject I've wanted to talk about for quite a few months now, but it keeps getting pushed back in terms of what I talk about each week, because it always seems that when I go to talk about it, something more relevant comes up, so it's always like just got pushed back. And I think probably is the perfect time to talk about it now because it's actually quite relevant. So who knew that a subject like homeschooling would become relevant? But I'd also want to put another disclaimer at the front of this video, because again, people will have misconceptions of why I'm talking about this, because I basically want to talk about it because, like I said, I've wanted to do something about this for months, because we're actually seriously considering teaching Bubs, basically home educating, not homeschooling, home educating Bubs when he's older. So basically he'll never be inside of a school if we can help it. And it's one of those things that we've joined, like me and my husband have joined a number of local and national homeschooling or home education groups on Facebook, just to get ideas and also just get bits of advice and different things like that on what it takes to actually home educate. And you can see at the moment that there's a few, not all of them, but a few that are actually pretty frustrated with the way that homeschooling, or again home education, has gone from being this weird and horrible thing that only if you want to sort of socially distance your child, or you're like just this weird sort of insular family that doesn't want your child to have a normal life sort of thing. It's gone from being that sort of stereotype where it's only sort of like religious nuts or just really weird people that don't want their kids to go to school and socialise with normal children that would home educate. But now all of a sudden you have all these people that are just like, oh, I'm blazing a trail, I'm lighting the way, and day one of homeschooling because I'm the first person to ever have homeschooled a child before. And it's like, well, you're not technically home educating your child. Well, you are, but you're just doing it in place until the child goes back to school. With home education, it's a more permanent thing, so this is actually their education is based at home. So yeah, it's interesting to see how it's changed all of a sudden from being something that only weird people do and almost child cruelty to being something that's actually pretty cool and just like, oh my god, I'm just like a hero doing this. And it's like, and I respect everyone that's home educating at the moment or homeschooling, because it is going to be tough if your child is used to one thing and then it's hard on the adults as well, especially if you're working as well and you're trying to educate your child. It is going to be a tough thing to do. But I just hope that in the long run people don't go back to thinking that those that home educate are weird and prejudiced views on what it is to home educate your child, because it's actually something that's growing in popularity with people. And I think people need to, and that's basically why I wanted to do this video, like I said, months ago, because I thought it would be good to actually talk about and make it actually, because like clearer about what home educating in the UK involves, because it's something I think people just have a lot of misconceptions of. As I said, I can't talk from experience. I can literally just talk about the research that we've done and why we believe it's the best thing for us to do. Like I said, it's not for everyone. It's just one of those things where it would be nice to make it a clearer, to give people a clearer idea of the whole thing, and also try and sort of push away all those misconceptions that people have. And I would hope that because of what's going on with a lot of parents homeschooling at the moment because of the coronavirus, that they would actually have a newfound respect for those that do home educate now. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if they feel that, like, because they're homeschooling now, that they're amazing, and then as soon as the kids can go back to school, that they'll still find people that still home educate weird. I don't know. That's up to you, really. I'm also hoping that, because I can see this coming, I can already see it coming, that as soon as we tell people, when Bubs gets to that age that we'll actually start home educating, and be like, back in 2020 when I had to homeschool my child for those 3 weeks, oh, I can tell you this, this and this, and it's like, no, just don't start. Like I said, you did it for like, you just winged it for a couple of weeks while you're waiting for the schools to open back up. This is going to be a lifetime dedication, or like basically my child's full childhood education is going to be based on our choices that we make. So yeah, that's my disclaimer. Now I'm actually going to get on with what I originally wanted the video to be, like I said, in terms of why we've chosen, or why we're most likely to home educate Bubs, or our son. And I have to start by saying there was one book that came highly recommended, that if you were kind of thinking about it but you were unsure and you had a lot of questions on what you thought of the subject, it's this book, Learning Without School, and it's actually written by, I think she's an ex-teacher, I don't think she's a teacher now, but yes, so it's actually written by a school teacher who took her children out of school and decided to home educate. And she just covers absolutely everything on the subject. So any questions you might have, like some of the like really big questions, like about your child's social life, do they have to follow any sort of curriculum or anything like that, she covers it all in here, and it's such a good read. And if you do, like, say if you're like homeschooling at the moment, and like while the schools are closed, but if you're actually tempted to, or you're thinking about doing it more or you would like to do it more full-time, but you don't know how to do it, then I would highly recommend getting this book. I'll leave a link in the description and where you can buy it, but yeah, definitely recommend this book. So basically, I think I should probably start with like the government rules, basically, on what it is to home educate. So it is, the government says it is every child's right to have a full-time education. So it doesn't mean, when you say full-time education, that doesn't mean they have to be in school for a full-time education. They can have a full-time education anywhere. They can have it at home, at school, private tutor, it doesn't matter. As long as they're getting a full-time education, then that's that. As long as you're doing that, then obviously that's that child's right. But then they're quite vague in terms of what a full-time education can be. So obviously you think that they spend what, so is it 8 till 3? Like the hours that they spend in schools, so it's what, nearly 8 hours they're spending in school 5 days a week. So you would think that's what you'd need to do at home, when actually that's not the case at all. And again, people that are homeschooling at the moment have probably seen this if they've been given work by school. What you'll find is, like, so you would think, oh, they have like 5 classes a day, and each class is 5 hours, or each class is an hour. But think about it this way, and again she describes it this way in the book. You have like 30 children in that class. You've got to, and one teacher, so you've got to sit those children down. That can take what, 5-10 minutes to get children to sit down, calm down and take the register and everything. That can take 10 to 15 minutes. Then you have to talk with them about the subject, so that can take like 10-15 minutes itself. So you're like halfway through the class before you'll actually get the child to actually do anything. So then you'll have like 10-15 minutes, or you'll spend 20 minutes or whatever getting them to do the work, teacher walking around the classroom helping any of the kids that need help. Yeah, and then you'll have the last 10 minutes of rounding up what the subject was about and just reiterating what they learned that day or what they were told that day, and talking about any homework they might have, and then obviously packing up and leaving the classroom to go on to the next subject. So when you think of it that way, like I said, you probably have that like 15-20 minute gap in that class where the child is actually doing work, and you've got that whole thing of, you've got the kids that will be struggling, so they'll be like the lower point of the class, and the teachers will be spending more time with them, while you might have the middling ones that do need some help but not a lot of help, but they'll be waiting on the teachers to come and help them with like a small bit that they might be stuck on. But then you also have the kids that will just breeze through it and then just waiting for the rest of the class to catch up. So again, that's another thing with home education, in terms of each child is different, and you're putting 30 different children with one teacher who will just teach at one level, and just giving that little bit of extra help to those that need it. So you can have kids that are really struggling at the bottom of the class who are just trying to keep up with everyone else, but then you'll have the other side of the scale where you'll have kids that find it really easy and they're just being held back by the other children in the class. Not saying obviously that those kids are bad for holding everyone up, but it's just the way that school is structured, and it's not fair, to be honest. It's like, if you have a child that's learning and really flourishing, and that can be stifled if they're being sort of held back. And like, she talks about that in the book again, in terms of, you'll find like kids that love going to school when they're like 5, 6, 7 years old. They love learning, they love interacting with their friends and everything, and they're just fascinated by learning. It's like when you go like summer holidays and school holidays, and you see parents taking their kids out for day trips to like parks and museums and stuff. Kids love learning. But then you'll get to teenage years where they'll be bunking off school. Not all teenagers, but you'll have some that bunk off school. They'll just be like hanging outside the local co-op or whatever, or hanging around in the park and stuff like that. And you're just like, what? And like she says, there's something that happened in between that just killed their love of learning. And she basically talks about it being the school structure that does that, because it's basically like, you will learn this even if you don't find it interesting, if you really don't care, if you're really struggling, this is what you have to learn. And it just kills that love of learning. And I mean, I can go by experience, and like my husband's experience as well, where, I mean, with me, I love school, I love learning, but I didn't flourish as much. I didn't do as well as I probably could have done, because the subjects that I was learning, or the subjects that I could have done better in, I just weren't interested. It just weren't what I was doing. Like, when I was 13, I taught myself at home ancient hieroglyphics, like Egyptian hieroglyphics, because it was something that I just loved to learn about. And that's the thing, I really, really excelled by teaching myself stuff at home. I did good at school, I did really well, but I didn't do as well as I could have done, because I was just like, no, I can't be bothered, I'll learn what I need to learn and then that's it. So you have that side of it. And also with my husband, he always has the story of like, he was privately educated for a number of years, and went to like a boys' school up north, and he really excelled at maths. He loved maths, and they kind of encourage that as well, in terms of like how you just roll with it, you just do what you want to do in terms of what you want to learn, and if obviously you're excelling above the class, and that's what happens, sort of thing. And then he had to go into sort of regular public education, and and the way they teach maths, and he still rants about this, the way they teach maths, it was basically like you're not showing you're working out. So he was doing it all in his head, he wasn't working it out on the page. And they were basically saying, right, use a calculator to do this, and he was like, I don't need a calculator, I can work it out in my head myself, I can just write the answer down. And they were marking his answers wrong, even though he was getting the right answer, because he wasn't showing the working out and he wasn't using a calculator. So that's what just said to my husband, or my husband from then on was like, he hated education. And I think he did his GCSEs, but he'd actually been kicked out of the school before doing his GCSEs. So he actually like had to be escorted into school to do his exams and stuff. But yeah, he just had no interest in it because he was told what he had to learn, and he hated that. And again, this is like things I could talk about with home education. I was hoping this video would be more structured, but I think it's just going to turn into me just going off on random tangents. But yeah, so like I was saying at the beginning, in terms of you'll have that 20-minute window in that hour that the kids will actually be learning. So if you think about that, you could learn at home, you could do 5 lessons in an hour if you did them on top of each other. So, or not an hour and a half. I can't do maths. But yeah, you could do 2 hours of work, and that would count as full-time education pretty much, because of just what you're actually but this again is if you follow the curriculum, because like I said, every child has a right to a full-time education in the UK, but you don't necessarily have to follow the curriculum. And everyone thinks, or people have this misconception, that if you want your child to be successful in life, like when they get older and they go on to have a job and everything, that they need their GCSEs and they need to show that they studied the curriculum in order to get anywhere. And that's not actually the case. I think it depends on what your child wants to go on to study, in terms of what they like. So if they want to go on to college or university, they'd have to look up what GCSEs they'd need to do. But there's a lot of universities, and mine included, when I was told that I was going to have a conditional acceptance, I was going to go and study Egyptian archaeology, but I was told I think I had to get like 3 Bs or something at A level, and I didn't. I got like 2 Bs and a C or something. So I was absolutely devastated, because I thought that meant I weren't gonna get in. But then when I called the university, they actually said, oh no, you were guaranteed a place, because of the strength of your interview. You just show so much enthusiasm and so much knowledge on a subject, like basically on that subject, that you've got a place. Obviously they said we can't give you a place in Egyptian archaeology because there's only a certain amount of places, and obviously we can only give them to those that got the marks that we asked for, but you still have a place at university. So I went on to study general archaeology, which meant I could pick loads of different subjects, and I'm glad I did, because I could pick basically my whole year. If I wanted to, I could just make on Egyptian archaeology. So there was like stuff on like learning languages, there was stuff on sort of the history of archaeology in Egypt, and just the archaeology of the land itself and different things like that. And I took one, I think it was an introduction into Egyptian archaeology, and I just remember it being just about the levels of sediment in the Nile each year, and how they worked out when the Nile flooded and when there was drought and stuff. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but the lecturer wasn't exactly interested in himself, so I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this. So I learned about the Romans again, because I did Romans quite a lot in school. The Greeks I did quite a lot in school, and I learned a lot more about them, but I did that in college as well. So I just sort of polished up on my Greek archaeology there. I did on the Anglo-Saxons. I did Caribbean archaeology. I got to go to the Caribbean for 2 months and dig out there. Trying to think, and Mesopotamian archaeology I thought was absolutely fascinating. And again, I wouldn't have had the chance to do that if I had got my grades and gone on to do Egyptian archaeology. But again, I'm going on the tangent. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Anyway, so yeah, so you don't have to follow a curriculum if you home educate. And there's so many different levels of home education as well. I mean, you can do, if you really want to, you can follow the curriculum at home. And if you go into like WH Smith's, or even if you look on Amazon and you look at the amount of books, like pretty much every single book that your child will get when they're at school, you can buy in a bookshop. It's all there for you to be able to do at home. It's all there for you. You've got countless resources online. I mean, just you can learn anything you want to online. And like she says in the book, you're learning every day. Like, how many times do you sit there on Facebook and just reading like different news articles or different things like that, or you're watching a documentary? So people are constantly learning, they just don't realize it. And like with me, like I'm learning different recipes, like vegan recipes every day, or not every day but every week or whatever. So we're always constantly learning, we just don't think of it that way. So while your child can be learning the curriculum, if you really want to, you can also teach them other stuff. So like I think people have said about, like, you can teach your child to cook, you can take them into the garden and teach them about like different plants. You can do your own vegetable patch so they can learn how to grow vegetables, take them to the local park, and like so they can get their dose of PE and things like that. So, and like you can do day trips to museums and different things, like learning about local history or international history if you were to take them to the British Museum or whatever. And yeah, there's just so many things that you can do at home. I mean, at the moment it's a bit difficult because everyone's on lockdown, so museums and stuff are closed. So it is that bit more difficult, but still, there is still so much you can do that you don't need to follow a curriculum. I mean, a personal choice for us, we're basically thinking what we'll do with Bubs is we'll get him to follow the curriculum in terms of with maths, English and science, but only to a certain degree. Like, he'll learn what he needs to learn, and then we can expand on it. So, because I always thought with maths to me, it's just, like I said, I was good at it, but I just was not interested in it. And looking back, I never took anything that I needed in life from my maths lessons, because I just used a calculator anyway. We have calculators on our phones and stuff. So, and like I always use the argument about the fact that, oh, I need to look up mortgage rates. I know Pythagoras theorem will help me do that. so yeah, it's good to have that sort of knowledge, but since when does anyone, unless you're like an accountant or you go on to be a math teacher or whatever, you don't need that sort of stuff in life. So like I said, it's good for them to have, but whether or not they'll need it in life. So that's what I mean in terms of, like, with English as well. Like I'll want to teach him like what the curriculum says, but then I want him to be able to read Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and just all these different books. I'd love for him to study like Latin or Greek or like Italian rather than French and German, like what I learned at school. I mean, it would be nice for him to learn a little bit of French and German, especially German for me. But we never go on holiday in France, but we always go on holiday in Italy. So I'd love for him to learn to speak Italian, and like just different things like that. And science, again, you can buy books, because I've looked in like Waterstones and Smiths and stuff like that, where you can buy books that show you how to do experiments at home. But again, you can just do loads of different things, like with just kitchen ingredients. I mean, a science lesson is also like how you boil a pan of water. How long does it take for a pan of water to boil? What temperature is boiling point and things like that. Sticking ice cubes in the freezer and then sticking it out on a windowsill, seeing how long it takes to melt. There's so many different things that you can do, and people just don't think like that. It's like we are conditioned to think that school is the only way you can get an education. And again, she talks about this in the book, that when basically, I think it was like Victorian times, like early Victorian times, where this new law came in that every child has a right to an education, and it was fully encouraged. Like a child, I mean, you can imagine at the time that this was just an amazing thing that the government was offering for your child, like that you couldn't afford something before, your child to go and have an education for free. You don't have to pay for it. So it's just like this amazing opportunity that was offered to people, like their parents probably wouldn't be able to read or write. So and they were like working in the factories and like dying in their 30s and stuff. So they're able to give their children a better start in life. So yes, so going to school and being taught by these teachers that would be like, they would know how to read and write, they would know how to do these certain things that their just parents just wouldn't have a clue about. So that's where school was just so important, and just an absolutely amazing development and invention. And well, in terms of free education, was an amazing invention. Obviously education has been around for centuries, but yeah, so it was just like every person could get an education. And like I said, there'd be parents that just didn't know how to read or write, and this would be an amazing opportunity for their children to better themselves, rather than what their parents had to rely on. They just had to sort of break their backs or whatever to be able to bring in some money. Sort of, we've kept school on that pedestal that, oh, teachers know everything, teachers will just teach my kids absolutely everything, and like more than what I ever could. And to be honest, it's like not ragging on teachers or anything. I think they do an absolutely amazing job, and I would never have the patience to do their job. But it's not the case. It's like you'll have, like, obviously when you go up to secondary school, when they're like in infants, juniors, it's a bit different in terms of you have one teacher teaching them sort of general stuff. But obviously when they go up to do like GCSEs, you'll have an English teacher, you'll have a history teacher, you'll have a science teacher, you'll have a maths teacher. So you'll have teachers that specify in a specific subject, or maybe one, like 2 or 3, but it will be a specific subject, and they will know the curriculum inside out because they teach it every day. But if you were to ask them a question about something completely random but on the same subject, they might not be able to answer your child at all. So it's just one of those things that, like, you could probably teach yourself that stuff, or you might not even have to teach it because it will be in the book. So but you can help your child to understand. And like I said, with where school isn't a 1-on-1, it's a 1 to 30. So you have a teacher trying to help all these 30 students. So it's going to take a long time for you to complete like 2 pages or a module in a book. But you give that child 1-on-1 and you talk through it together, it is going to take a seriously shorter amount of time to have to do. And that's what I'm saying in terms of, with a full-time education, that can be like 2 hours a day. So you could do English, maths and science in the morning, have lunch, and then go off and do whatever your child wants to do. Again, it's going back to that whole thing of encouraging children to do what they want to do. It's like, I don't think you'll meet anyone more pro sort of encouraging children to learn what they want to learn, because like I said, I learned more teaching myself at home things that I wanted to learn and that I was interested in, rather than when I was at school. So yeah, so I want to encourage, and I want to really sort of push that enthusiasm onto Bubs when he's older. So if he's into, like, at the moment he loves like trains and stuff, so I'd like, if he wants to learn about trains, then I'll encourage him to learn about trains, or take him to like a transport museum and stuff like that. So I think that's where we're going wrong. I think we're just so used to just thinking, my child needs a decent education, therefore I'm going to send them to school and rely on the school to give them that education. And kids just get so disenfranchised with it that it kills their love and their enthusiasm for learning, and I just think that's really depressing. So like I said, it's very open in terms of what you can actually teach your child. So you can follow the curriculum fully, and you can have like a timetable that you follow like really, really strictly. So you spend morning learning maths and English, then after lunch you do science, and then history and different things like that. And so you can do that if you really want to. You can, like, if you really are determined for your child to do GCSEs, and that's another thing as well. Your child can take their GCSEs even if they don't go to school. You have to pay for them, so obviously that's a bit more of a pain in the bum. But if you think over the years the amount of like school trips that you'll do, and paying for school uniforms and different things like that you'll probably have to pay for, It probably, and also when you go on holiday and you can only go when they're not on term, or when it's like half term or whatever, so they're more expensive. Don't have to worry about that when you home educate. so holidays are a lot cheaper. So with all the money that you save in general over time, when it comes to doing like things like GCSEs or buying books and things like that, it probably actually works out either a little bit cheaper or probably just as much. I'm not sure, because like I said, I haven't really properly had to look into this sort of stuff. But yeah, they can take, I think they're called iGCSEs, so you can actually take them online. Or I think what you can actually do is you can write to schools and ask if your child can attend the GCSEs at that school, and I think a lot of schools do actually accept it, but again, it depends what area you're in. We're quite lucky where we are that the council is quite pro home education, so we have so many resources available to us, like in terms of home education groups and stuff. So you have a lot of social groups and different things. We have Cubs right around the corner. So yeah, we have quite a lot of stuff that's available to us, when you will have a lot of people that probably won't have that sort of those things readily available, so that you will have to rely more on the internet and stuff. But like I said, that's just one form of education. You can have, like I said, I think we're going to be like a mix in terms of, we want him to follow the curriculum on certain subjects, just so then if he decides that he wants to do his GCSEs, then he's not so overwhelmed with everything. He can then, because I think the minimum GCSEs, if like in terms of if you want to go on to do further education on a specific subject, I think the minimum is normally like 5 GCSEs. So if he was to do the 3 in maths, English and science, then he'd only need another 2 in order to be able to go up to college or whatever. But again, when it comes to going on to further education, you don't necessarily need GCSEs. They can, and it's something that I've not really looked into, again, because that's further on down the line, and to me, I'd like Bubs to be able to choose when he's older, and I'll no longer be calling him Bubs, when he's a teenager. Yeah, when he's a teenager, he can make that choice in terms of, does he want to go back in, or does he want to venture into full-time education and go to school and take his GCSE, so he physically has on his CV what he's actually learnt. But then you don't, like, it doesn't necessarily, like, when you have your GCSEs on your CV, you can also have your home education on there, and it doesn't necessarily look bad if you don't have your GCSEs on there. Like I said, I think a lot more sort of colleges and universities are opening up to the fact that there are a lot more kids being home educated, and they actually find that kids that are home educated are a lot more self-motivated. Like a lot of workplaces as well are finding this, that kids are more self-motivated. They're not kind of like, you have to tell me what to do. They can think outside the box, because they were encouraged to do that at home. They're not kind of like, you will learn this and you will do this and everything like that. They actually get to think for their own, like, or think for themselves and do their own thing and explore different subjects that they're interested in. So yeah, so you will actually find it's actually a lot of places find it a positive when they see that a child is home educated. Obviously you will have like the religious side of things, but again, I'm not going to go into that because it's not something I really can really talk about, because we're not religious, and that's not why we're choosing to do it. We're choosing to do it because, or we're wanting to do it because we feel it's what would make Bubs happiest in terms of, and it would give him the better sort of education. There's also one that I would love to do, because I was watching a video on this and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. That I think it's called, they call it travel or world education. It's basically you live in a suitcase pretty much, and you just travel the world, and that's your child's education. So they're learning different cultures, they're learning different languages, different foods and different things, and they're just being able to see the world. And I would love to be able to do that for Bubs, but even though I'm not working, my husband obviously has a 9-to-5 job technically. So yeah, so we're kind of stuck in that sense, and also because I'm not earning money, it's not something we can really do, like travel a lot, especially at the moment anyway. But yeah, that is something that I would absolutely love to do, and that's what I hope to do in terms of trying to travel as much as possible, so Bubs does get to see more of the world, and And I think it can be quite restricted when your child is in school and you can only go on holidays within term, or not when it's not in term time. So obviously it's more expensive, so then people with kids tend to only just go on like sort of package holidays that are cheaper, so you're just spending your time around a pool and just eating English food in a Spanish hotel sort of thing. So it's not really giving the child that experience, and that's something that I would just do not want for Bubs. I'd like for him to be able to see, like I said, we'll be going to Italy hopefully at least once a year, and Greece at least once a year. Hopefully my parents will be able to move over there after this virus thing has gone. But yeah, it's just one of those, that's something I would love to do, but obviously we can't. So but I'd love to give him a mixture of that, so he has the curriculum, he can also learn what he wants to learn and just run wild with it, and also have that bit of travel thrown in, so he gets to see the world as a child and not have to wait until he's older and working and then having to book holidays with his work so he can travel. But yeah, so there's that side of it. I think one of the biggest things that people always talk about when it comes to home education is the social side. And whenever I've spoken to people about home educating, it's probably the first thing that comes up. It's going to be, oh, your child's going to be a hermit, they're not going to have any friends, they're just going to be this weird loner person. And it's like, from what I've read and from people that I've spoken to, home educated kids tend to be the most sociable kids out there. And like I said, where we live, we're quite lucky in terms of there's a lot of home education groups. So they do, I think it's like forest walks and different things like that. So you have, there are like sources available for your child to be more social. And like before I even knew about these sort of groups in our area, I was like, well, I want Bubs to be active, I don't want him to be lazy, so I'd like for him to do a few sports. Like I'd love for him to play rugby, definitely not football, like maybe even like cricket, and just like do different things like that. And again, sports groups are social groups. And it's like, and she explains it so well in the book, and I'll see if I can explain it as eloquently as what she does. But it was something that, and I think that this kind of is what got me into thinking this would be a better option for us as well, in terms of over the years I've seen different children that have been obviously at home for most of their young lives until like 3 or 4, then going up into school, and their attitude and their personality just changes like overnight, and they go from being this sort of like sweet little polite angel to being this back chatting, attitude filled just little shit. and yeah, I've seen it happen so many times in so many different situations. So it's not as if it's just that particular child, it's with a lot of children. And it tends to be because of the children that they get to hang around with. You can't control who your child becomes friends with. And being in that sort of environment with a school, your child is going to be exposed to just many like sorts of different children. I'm going to sound like really probably snooty and horrible here. But yeah, your child can't really choose for themselves. They're going to have a very select amount of people that they can make friends with. And also you've got the other side of it in terms of that child may, like your child may want to be friends with a certain child, but that child won't want to and could possibly bully them, or just not want to hang around with them, or pretend to be friends and then just secretly bully them but pretend they're friends and stuff like that. And that was the problem that I had as well in school, in terms of I had friends and then they would just bully me and just call me names and walk off and leave me, like sort of two's company, three's a crowd sort of thing. So I never had a good experience socially in school. Again, my husband was completely different. He had a load of friends at school, so he never really had that as a problem. And I'm not exactly saying that Bubs would have that sort of problem either, but I just think it narrows down who he can be friends with. And again, like I said, it's not that I would control who he'd be friends with, but again, you just don't know who your child could become friends with. And at least when they're or when they're home educated, the groups that you take them to, they'll have similar interests, or like, so if they do sport and they're interested in sport, they'll have kids that they get on with, they'll have something in common with, like the sport and different things like that. And you'll have these home education groups, and yeah, there'll be different sort of kids there with different interests. But if you don't like if there is a child that's a bit too, like, you just don't, there's just something about that child that you just don't trust around your child, you can take them away from that situation. When it's so much more complicated at school, like I said, with bullying, it's another thing. You're having to send your child, even if you know that your child is being bullied, your child still has to go back to that school every day and have to deal with that. And it's not fair on the child, it's not fair on the parent. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I just see school as such. I think it's probably just my prejudice of the fact that I don't have great memories of friends at school. So yeah, to me, school is quite a negative social environment for kids. I'd prefer for him to be able to socialise, and again, she says this in the book, when you go to these home education groups, it's not split into age groups. So your child is going to be socialising with kids that are younger than them, kids that are older than them, adults. They're going to learn how just to talk to different age groups and not just going to be stuck in this one age group. And like I said, just hanging around with certain kids that they have to be friends with because they have no other choice, there's no other option for them. Yeah. And I think you'll find that a lot of people that actually do decide to home educate because their child has been bullied and the school have done nothing about it. So they decided to take their child out, and they find that their child is just so much happier being at home and learning in their own safe environment. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it annoys me now I know more about it. I mean, I could understand to a certain extent when people say, oh, your child is going to not be sociable if you educate at home. But now I just think it's a really narrow-minded viewpoint of home education when you literally think they're just going to be locked in their bedroom all day just reading from the curriculum. Like, you open up the world to them when you home educate. They can do anything that they want to do as long as they show an interest in something. It's there for them to learn about. And I just think that school, I mean, obviously they don't physically beat them anymore, but school still beats, I think, a love of learning out of children. And I think it's really hard for kids to stay enthusiastic about a subject if they're learning stuff about it that they really don't want to learn. And to me, education is such an important thing. I mean, I didn't go on to do what I wanted to do because I think by the time I finished university, I was done with education, because even though I loved the subject of archaeology, I mean, yeah, with university, it's a much more extreme and condensed version of school. I mean, obviously you don't have like the rules and regulations that you do when you're at school, but it's still to such a sort of extreme level that yeah, I think it got to a point I didn't want to read a book for like the next 2 years after leaving university, because I just did so much reading that I didn't want to have to read anymore. I mean, I had a friend that had perfect 20/20 vision when she started university, and by the time she left she had to wear reading glasses because it just screwed with her eyes so much, the amount of reading she had to do. That's where I realised that if Bubs is to be able to make the most of his informative years and get a decent education, then I think the only way for him to do that is at home with me. Again, whether people believe that or not, it's a matter of personal choice. I mean, I'd love to hear what people's thoughts on it are. Are you homeschooling at the moment? Have you learned anything new about homeschooling and education? Share your ideas below if you are home educating, or you're thinking about doing it more permanently, if you decide that you actually think it would be a better way to school your children. I'd love to hear what different people think. Again, it's a subject I'm really enthusiastic about. I mean, I've got probably another 18 months at least before home education even becomes like a thing for Bubs, because I think it would probably be a year in the next 18 months that we'd have to get him sort of signed up to a school if we like for us to sort of make that decision of whether or not he does go to school. So yeah, so it would be interesting to see what you guys think if you were home educated yourself, because that's the thing, I don't think I've actually spoken to anyone who's actually been home educated. I think it's still a relatively new thing in terms of there's not a lot of adults that that have actually had home education sort of thing in this sort of modern idea of it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear from people that have been home educated. Be interesting to hear from people who do home educate. There is someone that I do follow on YouTube and we love watching her videos, although it's more vlogs, but sometimes she does talk about home education. For her, I think her daughter's 14, 15, so she is teaching her, or they are learning her GCSEs, because she wants to go on, and what she wants to do at college, she needs her GCSEs to be able to do them. I'll probably leave like a link to her YouTube channel, because yeah, we enjoy watching her channel. It's Imo and Izzy is her channel, but like I said, I'll leave a link below. And yeah, it would just be interesting to hear from people and hear their different views on the subject, whether you're completely anti home education or you're really pro but you don't know how to get into it. Again, there's so many groups on Facebook that if you are looking to, or you are thinking of home educating but you just don't know where to start, definitely recommend joining some of the groups that are out there, because they are absolutely brilliant. And again, I highly recommend this book if you are thinking about it. It's such a good read. I sort of worked my way through it. Every time Bubs was on his nap, I got through it, I think, in a week. It was just such an interesting read, and it really opens your eyes to the current education system in the UK. And again, obviously, this is just a video about education in the UK. It can be a completely different subject if you talk about like America or anywhere else in Europe. I wouldn't be sure, obviously, because I only know from experience with GCSEs and the curriculum over here. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. It's nice to get some mum videos out there, because I haven't done some in a while. But and it's like I said, it's a subject that I'm quite enthusiastic on, hence why this video is so long and it's just me like rambling about stuff. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, share it with all your friends if you feel you need to do so. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there and just say love you guys, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.